Hey guys, today we have an exciting day. It's new bike day. This is an RSD bike. You're about to see which one. We're gonna see if we can assemble it with everything I regularly carry with me on a ride in my Nittany Mountain Works hip pack. All right, tubes, which I'm not gonna use. Yeah, the bike just got a little bit lighter. Knobby nicks, here's a clue. 27.5 by 3.0. I like big plus tires. I've only ever received frames from RSD. This is a complete bike, so this will be fun to see what it's like when you buy a complete bike and how much assembly you have to do. We've got some rims. These are super wide. Same thing on the back here. This is pretty cool. This is extra. This is a rigid fork that I'm going to be testing out on here, an aluminum rigid fork. I will explain more about why I'm going to be testing that out in a little bit. Pretty cool though. This is RSD's fork. Some of you will know by the color of the frame which model this is. Here's my suspension fork. All right, here's the big reveal. It's greenish. Can you tell which RSD it is? Have you spent the hours that I have on RSD's site learning about all their bikes? Oh, sweet. We got turbine cranks. I love those. Oh, cool. We have a dropper. Okay, this is pretty cool. This is gonna be fun to build. There's still some building to do, which I like. But this also has the cranks already installed, the steer tube's already cut, the headset cups are pressed in. So I think I'm gonna be able to do this with what's in my pack. This is the RSD Sergeant V3. It's an aluminum frame, which neither of my other RSDs are. It's an aluminum frame plus bike that is super versatile. It can fit a ton of different wheel sizes. This is probably the most versatile bike in RSD's lineup. It can fit 29 plus, 29, 27.5 plus, 27.5, 27.5 fat, 26 plus. I wonder if it can fit 26 fat. There's room for a 4-inch wide tire in here. I'm super excited to take this bike packing. This is gonna be my bike packing mule, but I also wanna see how hard it shreds on the trails. It came with 27.5 by 3.0 tires, and I think that'll be a fun way to experiment with this, though I'd really love to try a set of 29 plus on this, especially for bike packing. So just like the middle child, it's got sliding dropouts. Pretty cool the way that this chain tensioner works. So you could run it single speed if you wanted to. You could run it geared. We're gonna run it geared, but you can adjust the chainstay length right here. If you like a longer, more stable chainstay length, you can lengthen it out, or you can also change it to fit different types of bikes. I also love that it has rack mounts on it. Since I'm gonna be bike packing this, personally, I prefer a rack on the back over a seat bag, because I drop my saddle, and when I drop my seat bag, it drops low enough to hit the tire, but a rack is always gonna stay up there. So I'm gonna see if I can find a rack to put on this as well. This thing is a beefcake, I love it. Super burly, super great welds. That's one thing about RSD bikes, their welds are incredible, especially their Thai bikes, but these aluminum welds are looking fantastic too. All right, this is really cool. This is the Manitou Magic. And it fits very big tires, which I'm excited about. Kind of cool. It's got the reverse arch. The crown is in the back, not in the front. It's a 140 mil fork. Shoot, I just noticed one thing. There's one thing I don't have in my hip pack, and that's grease. So I'm gonna cheat and go grab some grease to build this up. All right, one other thing I gotta point out. I just saw this. Attention, your disc brake rotor is inside here. Don't throw this away. It's camouflaged and it's taped up here. You need to find that. All right, here we've got the bars and stem already put together. I'm still gonna torque all of this. Okay. SLX brakes. These are cool grips, North Shore grips. I'm using Phil Woods grease because I've had it forever. I'm looking for something a little stickier than this grease. It's a little bit watery. I like Pedro's synthetic grease, which is kind of like Vaseline. What's your favorite grease? Post it up in the comments below. I'd love to. I'm shopping for a new grease. I always grease metal on metal contact, and even though we have a seal here and our headset bearings are sealed, I've had headsets creak before. For those of you new to the channel, welcome. I'm Steve. We focus on hardtails and having fun on hardtails and riding them, not just looking at them. There's lots of pretty Instagram accounts about pretty hardtails. We're about riding them and having fun on them. And I'm an RSD ambassador, so I ride RSD bikes and I love them. I partner with them because I love them. And I can get you 5% off any RSD bike using the code PARTY. So if you head over to rsdbikes.com, check out their bikes, and you're interested in a bike, make sure to talk to Alex and tell him you're a Hardtail Party fan and that you watch, or just use the coupon code PARTY and you'll save 5% on your bikes. All right, let's put this thing together. These go on your fork, and they go with the rounded corner up. Now we're on to the next bearing, and this goes rounded edge down. So this bike comes with the steer tube already cut, which is really nice. Next goes on our seal. Okay. Then we have our spacers. So we'll start with 3. Okay, 0 tools so far, just the grease. But now it's time to tighten the headset. I'm intentionally doing this the hard way because I know a lot of you don't have full-on bike shops in your garage. I've got a stand that clamps it by the seat, but this little stand is super convenient. It races, it packs up into your car, and if you can't afford a big stand, I want to show that it's possible with this one. So, this is the little Scorpion stand. I'll put a link to it in the description below. Trying to use the least amount of tools possible so you can imagine what it might be if you had to build this at your house. We're going to be using my favorite tool, the Toe Peak Ratchet Rocket. This thing is awesome. They've got all these little bits, and it goes into a little driver here. You can stick it on the end and use it like that, like a screwdriver, or you can use it like a normal ratchet. Because you can get a lot of leverage on it, you don't want to over torque anything, but it's sure, like when you're working on seat posts or something where it's really hard to get in there and you can just ratchet it, oh, it saves so much time. We're just gonna get these tight enough, and when it's all built up, I'll go through and torque everything. Pretty awesome parts spec for the price. I run these turbine cranks on my bike as well. These are really strong cranks that are trouble-free and pretty light. It's a good build spec though. All right, I think we need to put the tires on. I really like this adjuster nut here where you can move these in and out. Really cool attention to detail on this. I normally run Maxxis tires, but I've used Knobby Nicks before. I really like them in the snow. Last time I rode Knobby Nicks, we rode Hangover in Sedona in the snow, and these did awesome. They're very light tires. We'll see how they do. I know a lot of you guys love them. This wheel is surprisingly light for how wide it is. This is gonna be so great for bike packing in the sand that we have here in Arizona. So this bike comes with tubes, but it does not come with valves to set it up tubeless, so I'm gonna use some of my valves. So far, I've only needed grease and the valve stems. We're not putting cush core on this. I'm gonna try this as is first, get a good feel for the bike that way. So I've been using Orange Seal sealant for the past 4 years now, and I love it. I use the Endurance sealant. It doesn't plug quite as well as the regular sealant, but it prevents drying out a lot longer. I've never had a problem where these didn't plug it, but this is by far my favorite sealant by a long shot. It doesn't create animals like the Stans does, where it just globs up and you get these big gnarly looking chunks in there. It's also easy to peel off your tires. If you ever switch tires and want to remove that coating, it just peels off kind of like a lizard sheds its skin. It's actually really cool. I'm a huge fan of Orange Seal. I've been using them for years, but now they are a partner of Hardtail Party, and I'm super excited to be partnering with them. I love their stuff. If you've never tried Orange Seal sealant, I highly encourage you to give some of this a try, especially this Endurance sealant. So just give it a little shake, and I just kind of eyeball it. With 3.0s, you need more sealant. I'd start with like a 1/4 cup, and maybe that's closer to a 1/2 cup. And living in the desert in Arizona, where we get cacti and all of that, I am 100% a tubeless guy. I do not run tubes in anything. I always carry a bottle of Orange Seal with me on the trail. One day I'll do a video of everything I carry in my pack. But I've used that quite a bit with friends, and I've had those friends come back 6 months later and say, "What kind of sealant is that? I've never had sealant work like that and last like that." And once they use it, they're fans too. We've moved into the garage to finish this build tonight. I wanted to show you some very interesting things. Look at this clearance. Now down here at the widest point is 4.6 maybe. There is massive clearance here. So this is kind of halfway in between a fat bike and like my middle child. So we can run 4-inch tires in here without it being feeling like a full fat bike. We've got a little bit wider brake spindle, and it's gonna run the 157 Super Boost Plus back wheel size. The more time I'm spending around this thing, the more excited I am. Enough talking, let's get this thing built up. Wheels on. And this is a Shimano 11-speed. It is a 11-46 cassette. All right, let's do brakes. Routing the rear hose is super straightforward. I do not like internal routing on brake hoses. That makes life really difficult. Every time you take your brake on or off, you have to disconnect it and re-bleed it. All right, now it's time to put our derailleur on. We've got some nice Jaguar housing for it. This bike has SLX brakes, shifter, and derailleur. And honestly, if I'm blindfolded, I can't tell the difference between SLX and XT. You should always check your dropout bolts as well. Make sure those are tight. I'm going to run my dropouts all the way forward right now. But I think when I'm bike packing, I might move them all the way back just for a little bit more stable load carrying capacity. I like this thing. All right, let's run these cables. I did not cut the shifter housing. I haven't cut any housing or hoses or anything, but it looks like I'm gonna have to cut the derailleur housing because there's so much up here. Look at that tire clearance. That is a 27.5 by 3.0. I've got 2 fingers here, 2 fingers here, and one finger there with the dropout slammed. Up here too, I got a finger on the left, one finger there, and 1.5 vertically in there. Pretty cool. You can run some big tires on this. Coming together. Dropper and a chain and getting it all dialed and tuned in. Not much work to build this. You are going to need cable cutters to do it yourself, because this housing is just a bit too long. And you'll need a proper pair of cable cutters. These are different than most pliers. They grab the cable and cut it in all directions instead of like wedge-shaped ones. Alright, now it's time to put the chain on. I assume the chain's the right length, but we'll check. Alright, chain is on. That looks the right length. Got good clearance there too between the chainstay. Now it's time to put the dropper on. This comes with the KS Lev. Oh, sweet. I've been wanting to try this saddle out. This is the W2B Coda. I think it was designed for women, but the men ended up loving it that they called it a unisex one. I think this is a 125 dropper, yeah. Which, given the purpose of this, should be just fine. I always love as much dropper as I can get. I like that this has a straight seat tube, so if you're tall, you could run a big one on there, a big dropper without. I could probably run a 150 on here if my seat height's high enough. We'll have to see. Here she is, all done. Just need to make a few cockpit adjustments to fit me perfectly, but wow, what a cool bike. I can't wait to get out and shred it. And thinking about getting this for $2,200 bucks, pretty awesome how much bang you get for your buck on this thing.